Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Seesaw seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which, at the end of each player's turn, odd-powered units will get damaged by 1, and even-powered units will get boosted by 1. And today we are playing one of the most difficult, but the most rewarding decks I've ever made, using a faction that we've never played in this event. So let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Syndicate Jackpot deck that combines many of the strengths of other factions and other archetypes all into the same deck. By that I mean that we are going to focus on maximizing the effects of Seesaw by making sure that all of our cards have even power, and potentially even give them vitality so that they get boosted twice, once from Seesaw, once from vitality, stay on even power, and turn into 2-point per turn engines. Then on the other side of things, when our opponents have odd-powered units, we can give them bleed so that they get damaged by Seesaw and bleed at the end of their turn, so that they take 2 points of damage every turn for as long as the duration of the bleed. That means that because we're balancing the power of our opponent's cards, our own cards, and also keeping track of our coin count, this is an extremely difficult deck to play, possibly the single most difficult deck I've ever created. But when played correctly, it can beat even opponents using the most meta decks out there. So consider this one a challenge for any of you who want to push the limits. But let's start simple with cards like Imke, who generates coins when she's played in the range row, and Tax Collector, who does the same thing, because there are no surprises here, basically just play them early to generate as many coins as possible. Similarly, we have Scapegoat, which we can play on our opponent's side of the board, give ourselves 6 coins, and then because it has 1 power, and 1 is an odd number, Seesaw will damage it at the end of our opponent's next turn, automatically destroying it, triggering the bounty, and giving us 1 additional coin, with basically no setup. But now let's talk about the engines, and that's where things start to get much more complicated, because again, we want to make sure that all of our units are on even power at the end of our turn so that they get boosted by Seesaw. Street Urchins is great at doing that because we can use its fee ability to boost it by 1, and so whenever it's on an odd number, click the fee button, put it on even power, so that way you're getting a free boost from Seesaw every turn. Then, similar story with the Coerced Blacksmith, just rather than boosting himself, we can spend a coin to boost other units, keeping them on even power, in case we don't have things like the Street Urchins who can boost themselves with their own ability. Then, once we have a card on even power, we can use Horst Borsodi to spend coins to give those cards vitality, and if you have vitality on a card that is on even power, that means it will get boosted by Seesaw and boosted vitality at the end of your turn, boosting it for a total of 2, and keeping that card on even power, turning it into a 2-point per turn engine for as long as that vitality lasts. So that means the combination of Horst Borsodi and the Blacksmith / Street Urchins gives us amazing ability to turn all of our units into engines. Speaking of engines, Saul is a more passive source of points here because we don't need to spend coins for him to get boosted. It does take a little bit of micromanaging, a little bit of brain power to figure out how to keep him on even power though, because when we have 3 coins, he gets boosted by 1 at the end of our turn, which means if he's on an even number, he gets boosted by Seesaw, he gets boosted by 1 himself, he stays on an even number, all is fine and dandy. If he's on an even number, though, you actually want to avoid the 6 coin threshold because that means that he's going to boost himself by 2 and get boosted from Seesaw as well. A total of 3 boosts means he goes from an even number to an odd number, and so you're setting yourself up to get damaged by Seesaw on your next turn. So you want to try to either avoid that middle ground or use the Blacksmith to get Saul back onto even power so that he's still getting boosted from Seesaw as well. But if he's on even power and you have 9 coins, then once again he's getting boosted from Seesaw and getting boosted by 3 from himself, and that means 4 boosts total, keeps him on an even number, so that's another way of sustainably keeping him boosted from Seesaw every turn. Then on the damage side of the equation, we can use the Witch Hunter Executioner to give bleeding to our opponent's units, and we're looking to do exactly the opposite of what we're using Horst to do on our side of the board, because although Vitality on an even-powered unit gets it boosted by 2 at the end of a turn, Bleed on an odd-powered unit gets it damaged by 2 at the end of a turn, and keeps that unit on an odd amount of power, turning it into a sustainable source of 2 damage per turn. So that means whenever you're playing the Executioner, you're looking for your opponent's odd-powered units. Then, very similar for Ewald, just he has a damaging deploy ability. Then we also have Bincy, who is another potential big engine for whenever we generate coins. Then we have Sigi, who is a great source of a ton of coins really quickly because we have so many unique gain categories in our starting deck that this is profit 10 when you play him, which means, by definition, whenever you play him, he's going to get at least boosted a little bit, if not a lot, from Jackpot from over-generating coins, which of course you can also use with your other cards to either boost your other units or damage your opponent's units. But we also have some big spending finishers like the Shady Vendor to get a crime card, Moreelse to destroy a card, Savolla to spawn in a big Frightener, and or Tinboy to deal a ton of damage to all of our opponent's units in one or both of their rows. And as long as we keep King of Beggars in our deck, we can get a refund on basically all of those tribute coins that we're spending. And then once we've spent 12 coins, get King of Beggars onto the board, giving us another spender, which we probably don't need all that much, but there's a chance that might be a factor. Just, of course, if he does get summoned out, you use that fee ability at least once so that he's on 2 power. Otherwise, because he starts on 1 power, which is an odd number, he's going to get damaged by Seesaw, and obviously 1 minus 1 is 0, so he's going to get destroyed. So at least use his fee once to keep him alive. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, there are a lot of moving parts to keep track of, but if you are up for the challenge, then it is a very powerful deck capable of boosting with the best of them and damaging with the best of them as well. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Okay, so let's see, we have Bincy who can generate a whole bunch of points whenever we generate coins. We have Scapegoat that can generate a whole bunch of coins. We have a few spenders, some big spenders with Moreelse, Tinboy, Shady Vendor, all tribute side of things, and then some fees with the Executioner for damage and the Blacksmith for boosts. We don't have much in the way of coin generation over time. I feel like Bloody Good Fun, I'm also not a huge fan of that. Let's dump that. Don't really need a second Executioner all that much, so let's dump useful on even more spenders. Looking for, okay, I mean, Scapegoat is, more coin generation. Was hoping we would get a tax collector or Imke to give us that coin generation over time, which might have been the way we would like to have let off here, but barring that, we do have huge chunks of coin generation with the Scapegoats, so maybe we go... Probably do want to play Bincy in round 1. Just looking at the cards we have in our hand here, I think it's pretty clear. We're going to have a lot of stuff to set her up, and she may be the centerpiece in round 1. Okay, Coerced City Guards, so they're going to play, by the looks of things, a whole bunch of cards that automatically get boosted at the end of their turn, and if they keep them on even power, then they'll also get boosted by Seesaw, which means 2 points per turn on all those units, and they're going to stay on even power, so they'll continue to do that indefinitely, unless and until they get disrupted by getting knocked back onto odd power, which we can potentially do with our Executioner, just that this is bleed, and that's not going to work on a veiled Coerced City Guard. So let's now go for, I think, Scapegoat for the coin slam, because we don't want to overgenerate on the Scapegoat when we have Jackpot. And that means we... Oh, really? Yeah, they use Coerced City Guard's order ability there. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. It does shut down Bincy. We obviously did at least get 1 turn to boost her up, so it's not the worst case scenario. But in that case, she's definitely not going to be the centerpiece that we were talking about. So it does mean that now they've shut down their Coerced City Guard engine, which is why I didn't really think they were going to go that route. But Redanian Knight is similarly another one of those 2 point per turn engines. But this one is considerably easier for us to mess with because it doesn't have Veil, and we potentially even see if we get something interesting from the Shady Vendor too. So it's either the Executioner to give bleed, the Redanian Knight to put it on to an odd number, but with Royal Inspiration, which is going to be off cooldown on their next turn, they can counteract our bleed pretty effectively. So I'm thinking it is probably the Shady Vendor. Let's go for the 4 provisions, and let's go Dip in the Pawntar, actually. Is quite a good fit to shut you down. Sure, it'll hit Bincy, but that's not a huge problem. More importantly, it prevents this from being a 2 point per turn engine, which is the key thing that we were trying to do, so that's what we were looking for. Okay, Amphibious Assaults. They can probably get even more such engines. War Chariot. Gonna give us bleed is probably what they're focusing on here. They do have the crew. So they have soldiers on either side, so they can move and give bleed. but we can actually counteract that bleed pretty effectively with the card that I was thinking we would play next, and I think that is just confirmed that is definitely what we're going to want to do here. That is, go with Coerced Blacksmith, because his job is to use those fees to get as many of our units onto even power as possible. So I think that makes a whole lot of sense here, because we can put Bincy onto even power, and we can put, I mean, she's going to get boosted by Seesaw. If we put Shady Vendor on even power, that means that the Seesaw boost and the bleed are going to cancel each other out. So he's just going to stay on 6 power, which is, I mean, that's fine. I think, just given how much other coin generation we have here, might get a little more aggressive with the spending. So we do obviously still have Tiger's Eye as well. Okay, Redanian Knight. This one gonna be a little bit tougher to deal with, because of course we've already played our Shady Vendor. We could go Tinboy. That's probably overkill. We could go Moreelse. That's probably also quite a bit of overkill. The Witch Hunter Executioner, the bleed on it to get it onto an odd number. Again, they can use their leader ability to get it back onto even if they'd like, so that just doesn't help us all that much. So I'm thinking we probably just let this do its thing, and we've at the very least shut down their early attempts at creating 2-point per turn engines, so there isn't a lot of time for them to use that. So I think what we do in that case is we go Horst here, and we will, again, get as many cards onto even power as we can. Once they're on even power, we can give them Vitality with Horst. In fact, we can even cancel out this bleed if we'd like. And with the Vitality, let's go nab some of that as well. With the Vitality, that means that those cards are going to get boosted by Seesaw and boosted by the Vitality at the end of our turn, turning them into 2-point per turn engines, which is what they're trying to do. But we can do it as well. Okay, this is still crew from War Chariot, and now it's going to get boosted by 2 every turn. Again, 1 from Seesaw, 1 from Temerian Drummer. Same thing that we're doing. Their melee row is starting to get crowded, which means Tinboy is starting to look a bit intriguing. And, I mean, even Witch Hunter Executioner to put some bleed onto some of their odd-powered cards in the melee row, like Temerian Drummer, like Redanian Knight, that can make it so that they take 2 damage per turn, and especially on Temerian Drummer, since that is generating a fair bit of value, that may be what we're looking to do next. In fact, that's a little more time-sensitive than Tinboy. In fact, waiting to play Tinboy could even be preferable, since that would mean that they may play more cards in this row. So then, once again, let's try to get things onto even power, and then use Force to give Vitality to the cards on even power. And that means we got a whole lot of boosts coming our way here. And we've at least given them some bleed damage. Ah, okay, Trimmed Infantry next to the Temerian Drummer, which will be 2 points of boost and therefore 2 points of damage every turn. It is not enough for them to catch us here, and they did, in fact, load up on more units in the melee row, so it does mean Tinboy is a little more intriguing. I'm thinking we don't need to use his tribute, because we're going to have 1 Redanian Knight here. Yes, it would shut down its boosting, which is, there's something to be said for this. Yes, but as we were saying, we're probably okay with just dealing with that. So there's that, or alternatively, we could even just choose to pass here. And, I mean, if they have a Ring of Favor, we'll of course brick that. They can probably pass us if they're willing to go a card down. So maybe it is Tinboy time. Maybe it is Tinboy time. And that means this Temerian Drummer, they can use a leader ability charge to boost it up. I imagine they will probably go that route. We could boost you to make it so that you don't actually take damage from the bleed. And that means we have a pretty sizable lead here. But that is almost certainly the last card we're going to want to play. Okay, Nenica does give them a quick source of boosting, and they're actually, that's how they're going to boost up the Temerian Drummer. And once again, they're trying to get as many cards onto even power as they can. But we could still definitely justify a Scapegoat. We may very well not have time for the 1 damage to destroy it and give us 1 extra coin, or at least not much time to do anything with that coin. But the 6 profit does give us a little bit of firepower to continue to balance things out onto even power, and with this many evens on the board, that's going to be a little bit tricky. But is that worth doing? Again, if they have Ring of Favor, we're playing into their hand here. But I think we give it a shot. And in fact, we do this. I'm not sure that's actually going to matter, because this is going to get destroyed before they have the chance to use... or before it checks for who that Temerian Drummer is boosting. Okay, once again, just trying to get as many cards onto even power as we can, and just give you Vitality, because that 1 coin isn't going to carry over anyway. It's going to get rounded down. So, 20-point lead now, that is. Surely the last card we want to play. It's Botchling. It's not a great finisher. They want to play that early. So, I think we do pass now. We do have most of our cards on even power. These 2 are going to take some damage. Basically, whenever Trident Infantry hits stuff, it's going to disrupt things. But, yeah. We obviously don't have the coins for Savolla unless we use our leader ability, which I'd rather not do. Same with Moreelse, and that also may get us to the threshold where we're talking about getting King of Beggars out here. It would be for Savolla, would not quite be for Moreelse, but I think we live with this, and they probably can catch us if they really want. No, Borsodi's another long-term engine. Not the situation in which you want to be playing him, so I don't know. They do have still a lot of engines on the board. Yes, it's going to be close. It's going to be really close. I think with their boost from Seesaw, they'll be fine. I think they'll still hold on here. So yeah, I think we'll take that. You know, they clearly are a very engine-focused deck, and so having a shorter round 2 and by extension round 3 probably works significantly in our favor. Also, our leader ability is much more bursty, much better tempo than theirs is. So I think that's fine. It means, of course, no last say in round 3. I imagine they'll try pass here as they played 1 more card than us in round 1. Throwaways... Tax Collector is not great in a short round, so this might even be our throwaway. Otherwise, we could do Street Urchins, Witch Hunter Executioner. Both of those are, in this case, a potential for 2 points per turn of damage. In this case, 2 points per turn of boost. So they're both solid. Any big cards we really want to draw into? I mean, obviously, we don't want to brick into King of Beggars. Ewald would be good because we did play Horst in round 1. Imke is obviously a better Tax Collector, but I think we stick with this. And I'm expecting them to try pass, except, oh, clever. Keldar is, that Adrenaline 4 is already active. Surprised that he isn't highlighted in red, but it does mean they're going to spawn in a whole bunch of Witcher students. So this would have been a great time to have Tinboy. Obviously, we played him in round 1, but, I mean, they could, I mean, at most they're playing 3 more cards, right? But they could just be saying they're going to drop a Keldar, leave it at that, and see if we can keep pace. Or they could be planning to play this round as long as possible and lean on Keldar as just the first of potentially several engines. I'm tempted to destroy him with Moreelse. I think we can justify doing that. I think we do that. It's so big. It was a very good play. And I think for that reason, we just need to shut it down. Because tempo-wise, we have passed them. We've shut down what was probably going to be their primary engine in this round. So we may have discouraged them from continuing to push here, but Amphibious Assault does give them a point slam. With Meve, oh, I mean, it would have been potentially extremely good with all of those Witcher students, but it's not really going to be the case anymore. Let's see, 2 turns are going to have just barely enough time for her to do her thing. Okay, so tempo-wise, I mean, Savolla obviously is our best tempo card here. However, it is our most natural finisher. Our best card in a normal set of circumstances in this situation would be Tax Collector, but it is not sufficient pacing-wise. So, are we willing to play one more card on our next turn? If we play Tax Collector, we don't catch them, they drive pass, or they, not drive pass, but they pass on their next turn. Are we willing to go on to even cards in round 3? I think we still are, because I'm concerned about basically breaking Tax Collector altogether and having to play it on, at the very end of the round. And actually, since we're already on coin cap, ooh, a little concerned about playing Moreelse in the range row. Okay, I do prefer you hitting it, though, because this, when we're on coin cap, is actually 2 point per turn engine, so that's quite nice. So we'd like to keep it that way. And so now, Witch Hunter Executioner can damage Meave, but it's not going to be fast enough to prevent her from getting inspired and triggering her boost. So obviously they can only play one more turn. I think what that means is we're gonna look to go Street Urchins, and coins are gonna be a little bit awkward because obviously we need to have 9 for Savolla. It's gonna make it a little tough to balance out Street Urchins, but I think we still go for that, and you could even make a case for playing it in the... In fact, I think you probably do play it in the range row, because we really don't want Tax Collector to get hit, because at the moment this is just free 2 point per turn. And, Immortals. Ooh. Good point slam. Good point slam. I mean, again, one that is ideally a long-term engine, but it does work in the short term as well. Meave will, I believe, trigger here. There it is. Okay, so 28 is their number, and yeah, we actually could have used a Street Urchins fee one time on our previous turn, because we'd get a little bit of profit from Savolla, so we didn't actually have to be on exactly 9 coins when we play him, but he's obviously what we're looking to use here. And that will also get King of Beggars out from our deck. He only has a little bit left, I think. Yeah, just 2. So, I mean, this is obviously not sufficient, so yeah, I think it has to be Savolla. Again, I think we load up on range row, so we want to try to keep you protected. So we pay the tribute. It does get King of Beggars out, and it's sufficient. We are going to take 2 points of damage from Seesaw. We're going to get some boost from Seesaw as well, so I think we just deliberately do not pay the King of Beggars fee here. Obviously, it means he's going to die, but it means that we get a little more coin carryover, which may be a factor in round 3, and they've played all their cards. We still have 1 remaining, so we have card advantage here. Okay, so we've already used our leader ability, which means we don't have great coin generation anymore. I think we carried over 2 coins into this round, which is just barely enough with no setup to go with Shady Vendor. But it's going to be a little hard to do that, and Ewald, and Witch Hunter Executioner. Tax Collector on our first turn may be the player, especially when we don't have targets to deal damage to. So I think we probably get rid of you since you're kind of redundant with Ewald, although... When you have more damage on deploy, you have some profit. I really love a Sigi. We do not have a Sigi. Oh, and coin spending. I mean, it does come with 4 profit as well, so I mean, it's not just exclusively a spender. But we played Horst already, right? Okay, not a huge fan of that, but obviously they don't put any units on the board, so it's not the worst thing. It does make it a little awkward here, though, because this obviously is exclusively for damage. This is pretty much exclusively for damage. We have Horst in our graveyard, right? Did I make that up? Have we not played? No, we have him. Okay. The Shady Vendor is probably what comes next, and we just look for something that is not damage-oriented, of course. So I think we're still looking to go melee row. And then we have at least a little bit more coins, slightly more coins to work with for Ewald and for Bloody Good Fun. So we just can't do damage. So that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You have got to be kidding me. Lovely. Just lovely. I mean, it's got to be slander for the profit, right? Because then at least we're not spending those coins. So yeah, we did get some coin generation. We spent some coins as well to make that happen, but Donamir. Don't love the armor, don't love the shield. Because the damage was incoming here. So I think... Let's see. Bloody Good Fun is just pure damage. Whereas Ewald does have a really big damage deployability, at least 4 damage deployability. And I think we have to use him. I think we break the shield with Ewald. And then... I mean... Actually, we probably immediately use a fee to bleed Donamir, because he's on an odd number, which means he's going to get damaged by Seesaw, he's going to get damaged by the bleed as well. I mean, he has the armor, though, which is going to take the Seesaw damage. I think we probably still do it, though. So, let's go... I mean, we know they have some of those trebuchets, but get rid of the shield, and... We want to save all the profits now. Let's at least use a bleed. At least a bleed. So honestly, our biggest advantage here is just the number of units we have compared to them. As things currently stand, all 3 of these will obviously get boosted at the end of our turn. Urchin doesn't really have a valid, viable target here. We don't even need to play Bloody Good Fun because all of these are getting boosted by Seesaw at the end of our turn. We already have a lead, so we're totally fine here. We'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here. And they'll go first. Okay, so let's see. We have Imke for some coin generation. We have, same thing with Tax Collector. And some spenders with the Executioners. We probably don't need 2 of them. They're for the damage, whereas Coerced Blacksmith is basically the boosting version of that. Let's get rid of one of you. And we now have, I mean, really 3 really big spenders. And Saul, we'd like to just play and keep there as a boosting engine. So, I mean, we have a decent balance here. We're probably a little bit high on the spenders, given how we have 3 of our big tribute cards. But I suppose we can still make this work. Okay, so we'll start with the Carrick City Guard, and they are going to use their leader ability to boost that, get it on even power, and that'll turn into a 2-point per turn engine, unless we can disrupt that. The thing is, our best way of disrupting that would normally be to do some damage with bleed using the Executioner, but since you have Veil, that obviously doesn't work. So, I think we may just be in a bit of a race here in round 1 to see who can outscore each other in a bit of a game of solitaire. It's going to be kind of tough for us to match all of their big boosting engines, because I imagine that is just the start of what will eventually be a whole lot more cards just like that. But what we can do is we may have superior finishers with things like Tinboy, Moreelse, and Savolla. We probably want to save at least one of those for round 3, but okay, Donamir does potentially make it a little bit tougher to at least use Moreelse. But we can start to go more the engine route here. When do we want to play Saul? At the end of this turn, we'll be on 4 coins if we don't spend anything, which means that would turn you into 2-point per turn engine. So we can match that Carrick City Guard. So that's not a terrible play. Similarly, we can use Horst to boost, or rather give vitality to any cards that are on even power, which turns any of those cards into 2-point per turn engines. We can use Coerced Blacksmith to get people onto even power. I think we might go Saul first, and we're going to play him in the range row to the right of Imke, because we need to make sure that Imke triggers first, so that we are at Horde 3 by the time the game checks to see if Saul is going to use his ability. Okay. Sumerian Drummer. Oh, and Knickers. It's a little surprising. Tend not to see Knickers on these Northern Realms space program Seesaw decks, but they're probably going to look to slide in a Trident of Infantry in between these two cards, I'd imagine, because Donmir's just not really an ideal target for boosting. So, in which case, let's see, Saul, actually, we will be at 6 coins at the end of the turn unless we play something here, which means you're going to get put onto an odd number in all likelihood, which I think means we're going to want to go Coerced Blacksmith here. And definitely going to be at 6 coins now, at least. But let's at least boost Imke. And the Coerced Blacksmith's job is to keep every unit on even power. All our units, at least, to the extent possible. And so that's going to be a factor with Imke, with Saul. Okay, so it's not a Trident of Infantry. It's Nathaniel Pastodi, which is similar, but rather than dealing upfront damage, it's 2 bleed. And yes, you did manage to apply bleed to cards that are currently on an odd number of power, which means, normally, that would damage us from Seesaw and damage us from the bleed, and turn us into negative 2 point per turn engines on all those cards. Except that we can use the Blacksmith to at least get Imke back up to an 8, and suddenly Seesaw will boost her, bleed will damage her, she'll get stick with the same amount of power, which will be 8 in this case, every turn. So that's not terrible. It does get rid of one of our best coin generator, though, so it does mean it's going to be hard to get Saul up to the number we're really looking for here. So I think what we do is we go Tax Collector to give us more coin generation. Let's boost up you to an 8. You just to attend to get you on an even number. And once again, because we have Saul furthest to the right, the game is checking for his ability last, which means we just barely get the Tax Collector coin in time to get to that Horde 6 number, which is going to perpetually put Saul alternating between even and odd every turn, unless we get up to 9 coins, which we can potentially end up doing soon, especially if we go with Horst here, because this would be our way of canceling out all the bleed. Is one way is just put cards on even power like Imke, but that is not always going to be the most simple, straightforward thing to do. So let's go with Horst. We, at least at the moment, are on 9, but we probably do still want to go that route there to at least get you onto even power. And technically speaking, if we're willing to take double damage from Seesaw and bleed for 1 turn on Tax Collector, it does mean that we can get Saul up to this 4 points per turn, technically? Yeah, I think so. So perhaps we do stick with that. Oh, but the bleed, yeah, bleed does still disrupt that a bit. So, okay. Yeah, we are probably going to need to use Horst a bit to cancel out some of this bleed that we have on these guys. And Coerced Blacksmith is going to go down because he can, at the end of our next turn, because he can boost other cards, but he can't boost himself. So he's at 1 power, of course, Seesaw will destroy him. But he has already done an admirable job here. Okay, Ring of Favor. It's a big point slam. And that very, very strongly suggests that is the last card that they want to play in round 1. So, the question now becomes, is it even worth investing the coins right now to balance out as many units as possible onto even power, and maybe use Horst to either remove the bleed or go so far as to replace bleed with vitality? It's a pretty big investment coins-wise, and I'm still not sure that's going to be enough when they played very aggressively there, and they're now at a pretty big advantage. Tinboy, of course, could still damage them through Donmir, but they have a shield on Pastodi as well, so that's obviously going to mitigate some damage. We can destroy Donmir, which is removing 11 points. I mean, that is still solid, but I'm not sure it's worth the investment. I think what we do is we pass here, and either, since they've played 1 more card than us, they'll dry pass in round 2 and give us an easy round 2 win, and we'll be on even cards in round 3, or they may push But I think we have a decent way to defend that bleed attempt if they do go that route in round 2. Because we have some pretty big cards now. We have some coin generation with Scapegoat, and certainly with Sigi, and Street Urchins to a much lesser extent. So they could dry pass. We have a throwaway card. They do not, because they played one more card than us. We played Horst in round 1, which means that Ewald is stronger, at least with his deploy ability, than he would otherwise be. It also basically means that he is just a stronger Witch Hunter Executioner, so this could be a throwaway. Or we could try swapping this out for something else. Coerced Blacksmith is definitely useful. I think we want to stick with that. And Scapegoat, yeah, for more coins, it is not bad, but it, obviously, if they are going to try pass, which it's looking like they are not, then Scapegoat is not the most fitting of cards on this occasion. So they are at least pushing a bit, and New City Guard will continue to be 2 points per turn. And that would suggest they're trying to push long-term. I think this is more than just a simple one-turn point slam, play it and forget, you know, just pass on your next turn and force us to try to keep pace with this 2 points per turn. But, I mean, we could destroy it if we really wanted to. Which, honestly, we don't yet have enough coins to do that. We almost have enough coins to do that. Unless we use leader ability, then we definitely have enough. But we don't have a unit to boost with our excess coins, so I think in that case, we may, Street Urchins we can get up to 5, 9, yeah, Street Urchins should be able to get just big enough. This can be a point slam for us. If we go a little crazy here, and we make sure that, yeah, we keep you at 8, that means you'll get boosted. Up to a 9, technically speaking. You're going to get boosted up to an 8. And we're going to get dropped down to an 8 from Seesaw on our next turn. So yeah, we do technically still need to play one more card here. So we actually kind of do want them to keep on playing a bit. They tried him infantry again, would suggest that they are trying to push forward here. And actually, that damage was helpful. Because now we don't need to spend a coin to put Street Urchins back on even power. So that was nice. But yeah, I suspect that they are continuing to try to push a little bit further. And there's a chance they're just trying to trade 4, or in this case, 5 provision cost cards, see if they can force us into playing something bigger than that. But now if we want to, we can use leader ability to give us the coins, use excess boost. There's only a tiny little bit of excess coins we're generating to boost up Street Urchins, and then take out York City Guard. And then we'd have a pretty convincing advantage there, but that may not be necessary to go that far just yet, because Ewald is, I mean, it's 4 damage. So I think what we may look to do is go this route, hit Trident Infantry, and what that does is it forces them to play next turn and use their leader ability on Trident Infantry, otherwise it's going to get destroyed by Seesaw. So at this point, we're kind of... okay, Onse's might change what I was about to say. I was going to say that we have a better setup than they do at the moment, arguably. But Onse's is, of course, a big point slam. But they've used his order ability. So now Sigi is profit 10, which means we have 2 extra profits. So he's 6 points, and obviously a whole lot of coins, which we can use to directly translate into points on Street Urchins if we'd like, or use it to set up Moreelse or Tinboy's order ability, or rather tribute ability, which is not really necessary right now. Probably more likely that we'd want to use the tribute on Savolla. I think it is probably going to be Sigi. And at the very least, we are definitely looking to boost Street Urchins up to an 8, but I think pacing-wise, we want to make sure. See, this is going to go up by 2. You're going to go down by 2. So on net, they're at 0 change on their next turn, which means if they don't play anything, they're going to go Retaining Knight, though. Technically, we are actually going to get dropped back down, so we should have boosted a little bit more. So yeah, now they're running out of time a little bit for these engines. And so, at this point, we have made significant progress. Sigi was a really big play for us, so we may not need to play anything super big just yet. I mean, we could go Tinboy and get rid of your armor and shut down this 2-point per turn engine, but at this point, just a few more turns left at most for you to make that work, so I'm not super concerned about it, and this might be an opportunity to just sneak in Scapegoat, and first we should really just spend a little bit of coins, and this way, we get the coins, and we can still spend and should spend. Pacing-wise, we want to make sure that we're in the lead here. We also want to make sure that even after 2 boosts, yeah, they have a lot of cards on even power, really. So I think we might need to get quite aggressive on the boost on Street Urchins. Of course, this is getting very tall. So if they have an Earden, or really any Geralt at all, to shut this down, then that does potentially become a big issue. But we do still have some big finishers remaining. At this point, having spent just about all of our coins, we would likely need to use a leader ability to set up Tinboy, Moreelse, or Savolla. Eggman, they're going to put that next to Trident Infantry, which is going to boost it by 2 every turn, and therefore damage us by 2 every turn. That is a little alarming. It was an option. They could have chosen to boost up Scapegoat to prevent it from getting destroyed and deny us 1 coin. I assume they probably had better options. Maybe everybody was on even power, in which case, I mean, I guess. Why not? But they are continuing to row stack in the melee row, which does, of course, work well for us with Tinboy, and may not need to have his tribute ability for that reason. But we are going to need to be quick. That was a pretty big pacing move there, and they're continuing to load up on more engines. But I mean, the longer we wait to play Tinboy, the more cards they have in this row, the more effective he's going to be. But yeah, is Blacksmith, for example, going to be sufficient? I think we might need to go Tinboy pacing-wise. I think we probably do. And then this order ability does nothing for us because it would just put you on odd power, and that means that the ability technically would put you on odd power, and so you lose that boost from Seesaw. So now, suddenly, that Scapegoat is back onto 2 power, and so they don't have their leader ability available to them right now, which means this is going to get destroyed, so we are going to get a coin out of it. They are still going to get 2 points here. This is actually 4 points when you factor in both the boosts and the damage, and 2 more points here. So this is 8 points per turn. So I was saying how, you know, one of those 2-point per turn engines, maybe not a huge deal. That's the wrong place to play Anna Stringer. As a Northern Realms player at heart, this pains me. It's not where you play Anna Stringer. Yeah. So it's getting a little concerning. We do still have Moreelse. The plan here being probably to just remove Carrick City Guard. It is going to cost us a fair bit of coins. Although, to be honest, I don't think we need to be too concerned about that, because the refunds from King of Beggars is going to be huge in that case. Yeah. So, I think we may, in fact, need to go leader ability probably now, and Moreelse pacing-wise, to take this out. Otherwise, we probably won't be able to catch up. So, let's go here. Let's use this tribute to take you out. And then, I mean, looking at this, puts us at a 10-point advantage here, and more than that once we get all of our cards on even power, boosted up by Seesaw. Vigo's Muzzle on Tinboy, I mean, it's something. That's their last card for what it's worth. They are still going to get a fair bit of boost here. So, we are, I think, definitely still going to need to play one more card, but I'm not too concerned about them taking a 2-0 win, which, of course, was the chief concern. And maybe they realize that perhaps you could make the case that they ought not to have played their last card there if they knew that they were not going to be able to finish the 2-0 push. We may be able to, knock on wood, go into round 3 with card advantage, which may be making them rather nervous at the moment, which may be the reason for this hesitation. They do still have 2 points, 2 points, 4 points, so it's still going to be a fairly sizable chunk of points they're getting at the end of their turn here. And of course, when we play our next card, they are still going to get that passive boosting and passive damage on their next turn. So we may still need to play 2 cards here. We may still need to do it. Savolla obviously would be the big play, and we do have the coins to make it happen. We would summon in Savolla's Frightener, so that's what? That's 18 points. Use 1 coin to get you up to even power. So we're on 18, 19 from Seesaw, or actually, well, Seesaw is going to cancel itself out when we're talking about 2 turns, so because we're gonna have to play another turn just to pass. But I think it's Savolla, and this may even be sufficient. This may even be sufficient. It does get King of Beggars out, which is a little bit unfortunate. We should boost you, and we should boost you. I think that's sufficient. It's a little dangerous with all of their boosting going on here, but it looks like it's gonna work here. We are gonna take some damage from Seesaw, but we have a large enough lead that we should still be fine. And that means that we fended off the bleed attempt, and we have 1 card advantage going into round 3. We obviously, unfortunately, did have to get King of Beggars out there. We did have to use our leader ability, so we don't have every last tool remaining in our toolbox here, but we'll see what we draw into. And nothing particularly huge is a little bit concerning. What would be our best option here? I mean, Bincy is the highest potential, but we don't have a great way to set her up anymore outside of potentially Scapegoat. Scapegoat can also help power up the Blacksmith and Street Urchins. And maybe they realize with 1 fewer card than us, they just weren't going to be able to make it happen, so they forfeit. So there's a look at a Syndicate deck for the new Seesaw seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.